Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast. Each week, we interview the best and brightest in physical therapy, wellness, and entrepreneurship. We give you cutting-edge information you need to live your best life, healthy, wealthy, and smart. The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be used as personalized medical advice. And now, here's your host, Dr. Karen Litzy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Karen Litzy, and today's episode is brought to you by Net Health. They have created Net Health Therapy for Private Practice, a cloud-based all-in-one EMR solution for managing your practice. That's right, one piece of software that handles all of your scheduling, documentation, billing, and reporting needs in one very easy-to-use package. Right now, Net Health is offering a special deal for healthy, wealthy, and smart listeners. Complete a demo with the Net Health team and get $100 towards lunch for your staff. Visit nethealth.com/Litzy to get started and get access to free resources for PTs like ebooks, on-demand webinars, and business tools. Once again, that's nethealth.com/LITZY. Okay, on to today's episode. I'm really happy to have Briana Zabierek. She is a third-year DPT student at Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science, and today she's going to talk about her DPT study guide. She tells us about her experiences in physical therapy school and the frustrations that led her to start the DPT study guide, how the DPT study guide is helping students, and how did Briana find the time to do all this while still studying. She elaborates on the future of the DPT study guide, what students can expect to find in the guide, and current developments. She also talks about how the DPT study guide is compiled, finding her entrepreneurial interest, and, of course, gives herself some valuable advice, all on today's episode of Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart. So big thanks to Briana, and if you are a DPT student, and even if you're not, even if you're a practicing physical therapist, I highly, highly suggest you check out dptstudyguide.com. Again, that's dptstudyguide.com.
Hi, Bree. Welcome to the podcast. I am happy to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. And we'll give a shout out to Dr. Sarah Haig for putting us into contact with each other and telling me all about the great work that you're doing with DPT Study Guide. And we're going to talk about that today. So before we talk about the guide itself, why don't you share with the listeners your sort of personal experiences with PT school, which you are still in, you're a third-year student at Rosalind Franklin. So share a little bit about your personal experience with PT school and maybe some of the frustrations that came up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, I think every student kind of encounters a little bit of a roadblock just starting out. Between my roommates and just our class itself, we had some pretty good camaraderie to begin with. And so I always felt that that was a good option to at least discuss, areas that I maybe was struggling with or they were struggling with, and just kind of have this like melting pot of different ideas and different ways that we could all just get the job done and kind of figure out what we need to know for exams. But as time went on, I think we all kind of fell into our own little like habits and patterns and maybe a little bit what we're comfortable with. And then what I realized was when I think it was about like the middle or towards the end of first year, we had our neuro unit, and that is kind of where everyone hit a wall with our study habits and just retaining the information. And just kind of collectively as a class, we were making our own separate study guides, and they would be like these super, super long Word documents. And I'm talking like 50 plus pages full of words. Yeah. Like 8-point text. And, I was kind of like attached to them. Like we all would get on like our Google Docs and like start typing up information, and it just became really overwhelming. And so what I realized was like, I kind of have an opportunity for myself and for my colleagues is to just simplify things a little bit. Like I was getting sick of kind of going through the PowerPoint slides that were, 120, 150 slides long, and just little snippets of information on each. And so I kind of just took a step back and saw an opportunity to really simplify things, not just for myself, but something that I thought would be helpful just to transform any student's education going forward. And it was late in our first year when I was inspired by different cash-based physical therapists and kind of exposed to that world, and realized that there was an opportunity for me to step into like a niche position, and kind of get started there, kind of with like a side hustle. So that's kind of where everything stemmed from. And right now it seems to be going pretty well. Just looking forward to kind of like sharing the experience with everybody.
And so tell me a little bit more about the guide itself. Can you kind of give an example of a section of it and how it helps other students?
Right. So one thing that I definitely picked up on when I started posting the information on Instagram, which is my primary platform that I use, was trying to get the main points of any kind of lecture or chapter into about like 8 to 10 pictures on Instagram. And so what I wanted to do was share that information to simplify things for followers and students in general. But the guides themselves are focused around that idea. So kind of finding information that is most relevant to clinical practice, and then finding information that's most relevant for board exams, meaning safety or, most basic like phases of cardiac rehab, pulmonary rehab, and stuff like that. And I always felt, like I mentioned, kind of going through so many chapters, so many pages, so many slides, it was getting exhausting trying to figure out what I needed to know. And so the whole point of the study guides is to just really get to the meat and potatoes of everything. And then if you need to find something to reference later on, that's when we obviously go back to our PowerPoints and our textbooks.
And how are you simplifying or sort of taking out those pieces that you described, sort of the meat and potato pieces? Do you have a system as to how you extract that information from these lectures? Or is it a group effort? How is that being done?
A little bit of both. Like I said, we collaborated a lot as friends and classmates throughout the years. And then I really actually took the advice from Dr. Sarah Haig. So another shout out to her. She mentioned just go back to the objectives, whether it's the lecture that you're sitting in PT school, or it's the textbook chapter. That really lays out a good, 6 to 12 main ideas. And then I go back there and try and figure out, okay, what information from this chapter can I really pull and fit it into these like umbrella topics. So that's kind of where I started at. And then some of the samples that I have up on the website too reflect like, okay, let's just put the fancy details away. And what do I need to know if I'm seeing a patient or if I'm seeing these questions on a board exam?
And what has the response been from your fellow students?
So my classmates are really excited about it. I post a lot of daily questions in preparation for board exams, and they're excited to see it. They've either had ideas themselves to start an Instagram just for studying purposes, and then having that collaboration aspect has been really helpful. So I'll even get messages from a few of them saying that, oh, well, this is something I haven't gone over yet, so I appreciate you kind of like pushing me to review it and stuff like that. But even from complete strangers, like how much support I've gotten has been overwhelming almost, especially with trying to handle studying for boards and preparing for my final clinical rotation. Overwhelmingly positive. And I kind of attribute that to the field itself. I think going into a profession where we're taught to care for others and put others first and all those ethical principles, people are just really grateful to have an opportunity where they can see the information and either like bookmark it and kind of synthesize it right away instead of having to go through all like the dirty work themselves. So it's been overwhelmingly positive. And I just want to shout out to everybody who's following along. I appreciate the support.
And now you hit upon something that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, and that is time. So where are you finding the time? Because I know that I hear from a lot of students that they feel overwhelmed, that there's not enough time in the day to begin with. So do you have any tips or tricks that maybe other students or even practicing clinicians can learn as to how you parcel out your time to be able to do all of this?
That is a great point. It has taken me probably the last 3 to 4 years, even before PT school, to figure out what works best for me, and kind of even coming to the realization of, you do need to manage your time. Before, I would be a little bit of a procrastinator, as in like I would start a project and then I wouldn't really finish it, and I was like, okay, well, I've already started it, so I'll get to it later. It's almost like more of a productive procrastinator, I guess. And so what really has helped me is a change of pace. So I don't remember the exact name of the timer, but you either set 45 minutes or 30 minutes where you're just zoned in, notifications are off, and you're just focusing on that topic for a little bit. And then also mixing in a variety. So in the beginning of PT school, I would try and get through all of my lectures that we had that day the same evening. And that wasn't going to happen. I tried my hardest, but it just wasn't going to happen. So what I ended up doing was bouncing between topics, even if it feels a little bit unnatural. What I've noticed with my classmates and with myself is we want to just master a topic first before we move on. And I think the most helpful tip that I can give is to really just be comfortable with bouncing between things and just mastering the main ideas before moving on to another topic. Because the more that you get caught up in the details, the more you're going to kind of lag and again, procrastinate going to other topics. So that is first and foremost, give it some variety, mix things up, and then really set a timer. And then lastly, like I said, just taking a peek at the objectives of the lecture and the chapter is really going to tie together, what you need to pull away for clinical practice or board examinations.
Yeah, because I think so often we can sometimes get lost in the weeds and we don't pick our heads up to see those bigger pictures. So I think that's really great advice for students and for physical therapists alike. So now we know why you started DPT Guide, and now we have a better idea of what it is. So my next question is, what is the goal for you of the DPT Study Guide?
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Net Health Therapy for Private Practice is a cloud-based all-in-one EMR solution for managing your practice. That's right, one piece of software that handles all of your scheduling, documentation, billing, and reporting needs, plus lots more, in one super easy-to-use package. Right now, Net Health is offering a special deal for healthy, wealthy, and smart listeners. Complete a demo with the Net Health team and get $100 towards lunch for your staff. Visit nethealth.com/Litzy to get started and get access to free resources for PTs like ebooks, on-demand webinars, and business tools. Once again, that's nethealth.com/LITZY.
First and foremost, I want to make it a community. I think the long-term goal is to be not just to provide products and merchandise, but to really make it a place where students and practitioners alike can come and just review without any, egos or preconceived notions or anything like that. Just coming into a place where you're stepping into just a simplified version of PT school or PT practice. So that's the ultimate goal. It's just making a community for people to come together, and not entirely making it about DPT Study Guide, but making it about the appreciation and respect for physical therapy itself. I do a lot right now on the page about daily, weekly posts covering a variety of topics, as well as sharing a lot of other students, other clinicians' work that they are doing to promote the profession, promote their small businesses. And so that's kind of my long-term goal, is to just make it this safe space, I guess, for PT students and clinicians alike.
And now, is this something that is meant to help people pass their board exams? Because I just want to make sure that we're kind of differentiating so that people, especially students that are listening, if they want to get this guide or get these guides from you, is this something that's like, you're going to pass your boards if you do this? Because I don't want there to be any misinformation there.
Right, absolutely. My first line of products is geared towards the board exam, especially the NPTE. I think long term, I would like to branch out and see, especially Canada. My boyfriend is Canadian, so kind of giving some respect, a little shout out there too. But first and foremost, yeah, it's going to be focusing on the NPTE. And then down the line, I would like to extend it into just clinical practice, how things have evolved from our standardized examination to how things are in the clinic or in the hospital.
Got it. Okay. So what can people expect? What if I am a student and I want to download this, what can I expect to find?
I do a lot of aesthetics. So I try to pull in, like I said, the information that is relevant to both clinical practice and board examinations by kind of seeing where the attention is going to be in terms of like the mind's eye. So transitioning from what we made in school during our first year with those 50 to 60 page documents with just white background, black text, it's really hard to find the information that you think is going to be important, and kind of just simplifying it into basic examination procedures, basic interventions, phases of rehab, medical screening, laboratory values, like I said, kind of the meat and potatoes of everything that PT is, just so that students don't get overwhelmed with the details. It's going to be like bright and bold, big ideas and kind of like that. So
got it. And okay, so now we have a better idea of where you would like this to go. So tell me, what else do you have in development? What are you thinking that you can add to this? And it looks like, so when you're on the website, it looks like the addition to it can be infinity, right? So I think it's important for people to know that it's not like you go onto your website and it's one big gigantic guide.
Right.
Yep. So where do you see this going? What do you have coming down the pipeline?
So first and foremost is getting out both PDF copies and paper copies of the study guides. And then once I feel like that has a pretty steady response rate, then I want to transition into maybe even tutoring one-on-one, video instructions, or even student courses where they can go through maybe a differential diagnosis in orthopedics or a differential diagnosis, medication review in neurology. And even down the line, this is like probably 5 years from now, I have a very invested passion in pain science. And so kind of pulling those things together and offering courses for professionals and students alike. So I have high hopes. I think it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve and seeing what the demand is for students and professionals when the time comes. But I have full intentions to continue to grow with the demands that are out there for students and professionals.
Awesome. And now, this is obviously very entrepreneurial and which is very exciting. So where did that spark come from? Because not everyone has that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, and nor do you need to have it to be an excellent physical therapist. But where did that come from for you?
First and foremost, I have to, again, shout out to a dear friend of mine. His name is Travis Robertson. He was a third year student when I was a first year student. And like I mentioned during that neuro unit where things kind of got a little hazy with studying, he mentioned to me that, like, why don't you just take a chance and see what the market is out there. He was very invested in cash-based physical therapy at the time. And so then I started looking into, all the major ones. Aaron LeBauer was first and foremost, Danny Mata, Jared Carter. I actually even kind of more on like the female entrepreneur side of things when I found obviously Karen Litzy and Dr. Haig, more just more opportunities to see what those people were doing in their own journeys. And so he really inspired me to just take a peek at what's out there. The more that I learned just about cash-based businesses, owning your own PT clinic, the more I realized that there's different opportunities with side hustles, with other income streams. And that's when I kind of took my passion for simplifying PT studies into like the study guide form, and realizing it's going to take a little bit of effort up front. But if you have the passion for it, if you feel it's something that you believe in, and this is truly something that I believe in, then you can make anything happen. Like you said, you hit the nail on the head. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to make these opportunities possible for yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. As long as you can stay organized and motivated, and at some point reach out for help. I know not necessarily in the beginning, but as time goes on, reaching out for help when you need it is always a great thing as well. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you've got everything under control. I think you might be more organized and you've got your what together more than I do. So I'm a little jealous. So now, where can people find you? Where can they find the guide?
Yeah, so the website is plain and simple, dptstudyguide.com. I also run primarily the Instagram account, which is the handle is DPT Study Guide. And then that same handle you can find on Twitter and Facebook. If you're interested in connecting to me personally, I do have a LinkedIn as well. And that would be my first and last name, Briana Zabierek. So we can connect there too. But yeah, everything is easily accessible from the website and from the Instagram page.
Awesome. And, just so you know, it's also very easy to download, and it is very pretty, and it's very organized and it looks great. So I highly suggest, if you're listening to this, especially if you're a student, and even if you're not, if you want to brush up on your open and closed pack positions for all your joints, definitely check out dptstudyguide.com. Now, the last question is something I ask everyone. It's knowing where you are now in your physical therapy student journey. Normally I say in your life and career, what advice would you give to yourself right out of PT school? But why don't we say, what advice would you give to yourself maybe before you started physical therapy school to from where you are now?
Oh, that's a great one. Looking back, I would make more time for breaks. I feel like students are way too hard on themselves in terms of, I need to be studying 24/7. If I'm taking a break, it makes me weaker, it makes me less smart, whatever the case may be. Take more breaks and realize how valuable those can be for just hitting like reset with your mind, your focus, and also just making time to have some fun. I really feel that our class emphasized that a lot, because we were all so motivated to perform as best we could on test exams, and really trying not to sweat the small stuff. Obviously, like I said, the whole goal of it was let's focus on the big picture, and maybe try and make it a little bit easier on ourselves throughout the way.
Excellent advice. Excellent. Well, Bree, thank you so much. You are absolutely wonderful and makes me very excited for the future of our profession, knowing we have people like you getting ready to graduate and enter the workforce. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And everyone, thanks so much for listening. Have a great week and stay healthy, wealthy, and smart.
And a big thank you to Bree for coming on the podcast. And of course, a big thank you to our sponsor, Net Health. They have created Net Health for private practice, which is a cloud-based all-in-one EMR solution for managing your practice. It takes care of your scheduling, documentation, billing, and reporting needs, plus a lot more in one easy package. In order to get a free $100 lunch for your staff, visit nethealth.com/Litzy to get started and get access to free resources for PTs like ebooks, on-demand webinars, and business tools. Again, all you have to do is complete a demo with the Net Health team and go to nethealth.com/LITZY.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the podcast at podcast.healthywealthysmart.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media.